And we welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell alongside Mitchell Balla. Kind of a new setup for me this week, but more sports talk here this coming week. Mitch, it is good to be here with you. We got off to a late start this week, but for a very good reason. We get to celebrate a Victory Tuesday here in Ohio as the Cleveland Browns knocked off the Cincinnati Bengals. That is part of what we are getting much into here on Big Time Sports, the show today.
Victory Tuesday, cannot think of a better way to, kind of start off the week. I'm saying this is the start of the week because, Monday I was just worried about football. So Victory Tuesday here, record an episode of, man, do we have news flying in left and right now of things we got to cover today. So we better get to it, Mitch.
We are going to get into much of it. Before we do that, I want to remind you guys, thanks so much for liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell on YouTube here. If you're not watching us here, you might be watching or listening on one of our podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Spotify is video as well. Apple and SoundCloud audio only. So be sure to check out for that. Also BigTimeSportsOhio.com and BTS Ohio on Twitter. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Big Time Sports Ohio, at Mitch Spinell, Spinell, at Mitchell Balla, the word ball, and then an A at the end. So Mitch, we're basking in the glory of last night's 32-13 victory. I said this to the guys in the studio last night. This is the first time we've had an easy win in the Kevin Stefanski era since the game, I believe it was last year in Cincinnati against the Bengals. So it was just nice to not have to worry about it. Even when Cincinnati started scoring touchdowns late in the game, I was thinking, they got a lot of room to work with. And there you go. That's the end. But yeah, man, that was a game that was so needed to go into the bye at 3-5, not completely out of it yet because of how weak the AFC North has been this year among many other divisions. Just the team came really ready to play last night, and it's the most fun I have had watching the Browns this year.
So your first point, yes, that's the most easy win we've had, most relaxed, and typical Browns fan in me. Even last night, though, in that fourth quarter, I was like, well, if they score here and they get an onside kick, and then Bajorka has completely just botched the punt in the fourth quarter, and I thought, oh my gosh, the Bengals are going to score quick here, but at the same time, it was a 4-possession game at one point, 15 minutes to go. It would have had to have been the meltdown of all meltdowns, although we've already seen one of the all-timers this year, but I picked the Browns last week, Mitch, because I had that much confidence in them against the Bengals. The Bengals are the team that if we could play them every game, every year, I think the Browns would be undefeated. For some reason, we play the Bengals so well, and we just know what to do offensively, defensively. Joe Burrow now remains winless against us, 0-4 now since he's come into the NFL. He did not start last year. Stefanski's now 5-0, and hey, don't look now, but Baker, who also owned the Bengals, they play the Panthers next week, the Bengals do. So who knows? Maybe the Bengals are going to hit a skid, but 3-5 is much more feasible to have an opportunity to even look at the playoffs than 2-6. I'm not going to go that far down the road, Mitch, because as confident as I was with this team, there's still a lot of question marks, but we head into the bye week on a good note. It was just an awesome game, especially on national television, to just beat down Cincinnati. We own that city.
Oh, it's such a great thing. I mean, chili does not belong on spaghetti. We proved it last night. I mean, that game, it was the game that finally made me realize, okay, it's gotten through Stefanski's skull at this point that you just got to get the ball to your running backs. Nick Chubb having an awesome game, 2 touchdowns, 100+ rushing yards, some big runs there, especially later on. Not a bunch of huge plays so far for the Browns this season, as well as in the game, but the 52-yard reception to Amari Cooper from Brissett on third down was certainly one that made me breathe a lot easier to not let Cincinnati back into that game, eventually going for the touchdown. I do remember at certain points, like when McPherson, who had a really rough game yesterday, when McPherson missed that point after, I'm like, okay, they're not coming back from that. And then, of course, when MJ Emerson makes that fourth down stop, he had a solid game last night. I was like, this is it. We're going in victory formation. But a lot of those defensive guys had some big stands last night. Tommy Togiai forcing a turnover in the game. Sione Takitaki has come out as a starter. Oh, I'm so happy that he has been a guy who's been able to step up this season in lieu of some injuries and guys not performing as well. And then, of course, Myles Garrett looking like a monster even before the game. When I don't watch Stranger Things, he looked like one of the monsters from that show. I just kind of said he looked like Spawn from the 90s. And I honestly thought like, okay, if he wore that mask down a regular Cleveland street at his build and physique, how like horrified do you think the public would be just in general?
Pretty horrifying.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he is. I mean, people call him a Greek god when you look at his body. I mean, the dude is just does not look human. If you've ever watched his workout videos, it's terrifying. And so now you add that mask on top of him. He walked down the street with that. I'd run the opposite way. Actually, even if I ran the opposite way, he's still fast enough to catch me. So I would just probably just give up.
yeah. I mean, it was a good night for Cleveland, and I'm very happy that we don't have to go into the bye just kind of really wondering where this season goes. You have 3 games left until Deshaun Watson gets back from the suspension. You got Miami, Tampa Bay, and Buffalo. I think 2 of those games, all 3 of them are going to be tough. I think 2 of them you can win, maybe against Buffalo. I'm not sure. But as far as the rest of the league went this weekend, I mean, a lot of stuff went down and a lot of our picks. I was unfortunately the one that didn't pick the Browns to win this week, and I should have. But I did go 8-7 this week, which is still the worst record. You went 12-3, and your 3 losses. I'm looking over here. You had the Jaguars beating the Broncos, which I wouldn't have blamed you for the London game. We all had the Raiders beating the Saints, and they got embarrassed by New Orleans, and then the Giants, which only one of us got, losing to Seattle, and that was one where I was a little surprised by too. But Seattle's a capable team this year of beating New York. But as far as a lot of your picks, man, what was the one that really stood out to you as like, this is the one that I kind of called out of nowhere, and nobody else had it?
I mean, the Patriots. I mean, looking at this, all 3 between you, me, and our 2 buddies that hop in here with us and make picks. I was the only one who picked Patriots. Bill Belichick was not going to lose to Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. I just didn't see that happening at all. I see that 2 people picked the Commanders, 2 people picked the Colts, and what a game that was! What a bad football game that actually was like good. That ended up being. Same with the Falcons and Panthers. I haven't seen anything yet. I'm sure the Panthers are going to be looking for a new kicker as we're recording this right now. It was a wild game, wild games in the NFL this week from teams you did not expect it from, if that makes sense. You had a battle for first place in the NFC South between the Panthers and Falcons. A battle for first place between the Panthers and Falcons that went into overtime. Like, it was absurd. Taylor Heineke's rattled off 3 wins in a row now for the Commanders, who are 4-4. I mean, and the Seahawks, look, you could have gone either way in that game with the Giants and the Seahawks. Both teams are playing great right now, and the Seahawks still are in first place in the NFC West. So this season has just been absolutely insane. I mean, look, we all missed on the Jags. The Broncos somehow figured it out. Trevor Lawrence, Mitch. How long before we can have a conversation here? Is he good or is he not good at all? Because the stats now, there are stats to back it up. Any game he has thrown an interception, the Jaguars are now winless. And he has the worst winning percentage out of any number 1 pick through the first 25 career games of a player taken number 1 overall. And there's some Jaguar fans who are unhappy. And listen, it's hard to argue numbers sometimes, but at the same time, you can just tell by the players' names. Through the same amount of games as Jacksonville's quarterback, Gardner Minshew has better numbers than Trevor Lawrence did through the games he started. And it's really not, it's pretty bad. And so you just wonder, this is a guy that coming out of Mitch, when he got to college, they were already saying he was going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. And then coming out of college, he was the next can't miss prospect, the next Peyton Manning, the next Andrew Luck. He was going to be the next franchise altering quarterback. And how much time before we just admit that he's not that good?
I don't know, because I'm looking at the numbers, and you're right. 5-20 as a starter for Jacksonville. Since they got up to that 2-1 start, he's had 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. His passer rating is at 72.6, 57.8 completion percentage. And again, this is a guy that in most drafts would have been the number 1 pick. This wasn't just a weak year for the class. Right. And it is disappointing to see the start that he's gotten off to. And some people say, well, he had to deal with the nonsense of Urban Meyer. That's not necessarily untrue, but how long can you keep that excuse going for? I mean, Justin Fields had to deal with Adam Gase for sure, but at least with Eberflus, he has had some bright, shining little moments here in the last couple of weeks that's shown that he can be special if given the right tools, like someone like Josh Allen, maybe, but with his legs as well. And right now, I'm starting to see Justin Fields start to creep up as when you look up, when you look back at the class of what was it, 2019? Is that when Lawrence was taken in the draft? What class
it would
was
have
that?
been the 2020
2020.
draft
Yeah,
because
I don't know.
the Buckeyes
I
had his
I don't know. No, it would be 21 because Fields. Yeah, I don't know why I said 19. 21. You have the guys like Lawrence, Fields, Mac Jones. I feel like I'm missing one or two in there. Trey Lance is also in there. And you look at it now. It used to be like Lawrence is probably going to be the number one guy, and then of course went to Mac Jones last year because he takes him to the playoffs. Fields is starting to creep up as like the most stocked prospect, or not for prospect, young player right now out of all of them. And I like to see that because I like to see a former Buckeye do well in the NFL, and I think he can be really special. I want him to be special, but it's starting to look that way. And if Lawrence doesn't quite get it, then how many seasons would it take if Lawrence keeps his play like this? Does Jacksonville decide to take a leap?
It's so hard to say because every franchise is different, right? How many opportunities did we give Baker Mayfield? How many opportunities have other teams given other quarterbacks before they throw them away? But at this point, Mitch, I think the big thing is Trevor Lawrence came out after week 3 when the Jaguars were 2-1. I believe that's after they beat the Chargers and made a statement saying, we're only going to get better. Well, Trevor, no, you've gotten worse. Travis Etienne I think the Jaguars have realized he's a pretty good running back, and he's starting to do that. The Jaguars went out and invested so much money in the offseason in the wide receiver position. It's just how much more. I mean, listen, you can't write a guy off after 1 year. You can't write him off after really 2. I mean, Peyton Manning's rookie year was one of the all-time worst rookie years for a quarterback.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to be aware of what's going on here because you cannot continue to sit around and be patient because, look, I know Jacksonville doesn't have the most big-name players. Starting to enter territory now where you have guys on the second or third or fourth year of their rookie deal that's, 4 or 5 years. If they're going to hit free agency, are you going to waste years of prime players? It's so many question marks, but I think Trevor Lawrence gets at least another year, but the clock is starting to tick if he doesn't turn it around this year, Mitch.
It's going to be tough for him. So we're going to see where the teams go from here, where the Browns go following the bye week. It's going to be nice to have 2 consecutive Sundays where I don't have to worry about my team and what their result is. It doesn't affect my watching of the rest of the league. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more topics to talk about, including some swirling news from the association. Stay with us.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
Buying a home has never been so affordable with record low interest rates. Hartzler's Quality Housing is ready to put over 40 years of experience to work for you. Family owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's has a wide selection of model homes on site with a knowledgeable team to help make your new home a reality. Open 6 days a week. Visit them off I-77 in Dover or online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-49.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving, and we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
And we're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell and Mitchell Bauer. Let me get the mic closer to me. Mitch, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about here, including the NFL trade deadline, which comes on Tuesday at 4 p.m. So right before, we get a couple of big deals right beforehand, and a few of them big this morning. I want to go into the one that happened really early this morning involving the Lions and the Vikings. Tight end TJ Hawkinson has been dealt from Detroit to Minnesota for a 2023 second-round pick, a third-round pick the following year. The Vikings will get a fourth round selection in 2023 and a conditional fourth rounder in 2024, along with a tight end who has been on the rise for Detroit, is going to get paid this offseason. And it looks like the Vikings are really bolstering that offense right now to try and run away with the NFC North.
And they have to, because their tight end, Irv Smith Jr., just suffered a high ankle sprain, is going to be out for it looks like multiple weeks here. And this is a team that really likes to use the tight end. Now, obviously, they're never going to put up numbers like we've seen Kelsey, Kittle, Waller when healthy, other top tight ends. But at the same time, you're not going to need that when you have Jefferson, Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and others. But we know Minnesota likes to use the tight end. This is a great pickup because Hawkinson, Mitch, a lot of people don't understand how great he is because he's in Detroit. And now he's out of there. He's going to the division leading Minnesota Vikings. And you have to assume, give it a week or two, kind of like what we saw at McCaffrey and San Francisco. But you have to assume this is going to not only fill the need they want, but make it better, right? Because Hawkinson is a better tight end than Irv Smith Jr. on paper. And so once he gets this offense down, now you're talking about the Vikings having three options to throw it to, either the wide receivers, the tight end, or dropping it out of the backfield to Dalvin Cook. So I like this move a lot for the Vikings, who are sitting atop solo there in the NFC North.
I'm sorry, I just sent you a DM, and we're gonna talk about that next segment. But as far as this segment goes, another big deal that happened this morning was the Chicago Bears, as far as 20 minutes ago, maybe, just traded or got a trade in wide receiver Chase Claypool from the Pittsburgh Steelers, a move that makes me think the Steelers are just throwing in the towel on the season. It's a wash at this point. They're dead last in the AFC North, and the Bears giving up a second round pick for him. I thought that was a little steep of a price for him, or it could have been multiple later round selections, which the club kind of got from their two recent deals, sending Robert Quinn as well as sending Robert Quinn to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then trading Roquan Smith, of course, to the Baltimore Ravens for multiple draft picks.
Yeah, first off, we were talking about this before the show started because I texted you, or I think you texted me. We've been texting about deals and all this breaking news happening today. What are the Bears doing? Because they just traded their two best defensive players at the deadline, but now they traded a second round pick for Chase Claypool, which you have to go get Fields weapons. There's no doubt about that. I find it bizarre, though, because, Mitch, you hardly ever see a player get traded for what he was originally acquired for. The Steelers took Chase Claypool with a second round pick when they took him in the draft. And now the Steelers get a second round pick back. So not only is this a huge win for Pittsburgh, it's a win for Chicago too, because they needed to get a wide receiver, more so a physical one.
Yeah.
Claypool is. And I think there was this disconnect ever since 2020 with the Steelers and Juju and Claypool. There was all the talking and TikTok nonsense, and the Browns is the Browns. And there's just been this, I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm not going to assume it. Just something seemed weird, at least from the outside. And this is good. This is a big move for the Bears, right? Now you don't have to take an unproven rookie wide receiver in the draft, but to your point, they did just get a second round pick back for Roquan Smith. And so it makes sense. I'm just kind of shocked it was for a second round pick.
And I'm fine with the move Chicago's made, because they're basically stockpiling picks and getting key pieces for the offense so that Justin Fields can flourish into a potential franchise quarterback. We'll just see if these draft picks eventually pan out. Now, as far as the rest of the trade deadlines go, I mean, I've been seeing names like Bradley Chubb maybe swirling around, even though I think Denver might have implied that they're not going to deal him. There was the deal that the Chiefs got for Kadarius Toney from the Giants. Kind of a surprising move for the Giants to send a receiver like that when they're still contending, but Kansas City gets another piece there. The Jets getting James Robinson from the Jaguars after Breece Hall went down with an injury. You also have a couple of pieces or not, pieces not even moving. What was this move? The Panthers rejected an offer of 2 first-round picks, which it seems like it was from the Los Angeles Rams for defensive end Brian Burns. Why wouldn't you do that, Mitch?
I don't know, especially in a year. Now, listen, I'm not going to look it up because it's going to be too confusing, but I don't know what year those first-round picks were coming because the Rams are notorious for trading all their first-round picks away. They traded them for Ramsey. They traded them for Stafford. So who knows when these picks would have been. But at the same time, why would you do that unless the Panthers are just steadfast, Mitch, on the fact that they could possibly win the NFC South? That is the only thing in my head that tells me that they would keep him. But at the same time, you probably aren't after the loss on Sunday to the Falcons. You're 2-6. It's very bizarre. You don't get offered first round picks for players like that all the time, and let alone 2. I don't know what Carolina's doing. I don't think anybody knows what Carolina's doing.
It also gives Burns, who's lined up for a potential lucrative extension this year, more incentive to try and work out a big deal, because it's like, hey, if I'm worth 2 first-round picks, what are you guys giving me, basically? Yep. That's where I'm very, very lost. I'm cutting this segment short because we need to get into the third segment. We're going to come back right after commercial because the association, Mitch, is heating up, and people need to hear about it right here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.
You asked for it and we listened. Buckeye Career Center is now offering Certified Nail Technician as an adult education program. This 216-hour course begins in November and will run Tuesday through Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. Learn manicures, pedicures, infection control, salon operations, and more. Other part-time certification courses starting this fall include phlebotomy and welding. Call 330-339-2288 to register or visit buckeyecareercenter.org for more information.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Albin Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
Where you matter. You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care. Alt Care. Alt Care. Where you matter.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
We're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Let's get right into it, Mitch. So we got the news earlier this morning, early afternoon, I want to say, that we have our first official firing in the NBA this year. The first head coach fired in the NBA this season. The honor goes to Steve Nash from the Brooklyn Nets after 7 games into the season. The Nets are 2-5 on this year, Mitch. And it only gets better from here because, okay, so when the news hit that Steve Nash was getting fired, there was a bunch of reports of like, oh, who could maybe step in and be the guy who's going to be the new coach for the Nets. I believe what was I seeing here that it might have been
Jacques Vaughn.
Jacques Vaughn.
The acting head coach.
He's going to be the active head coach moving forward. However, we might have a drama-filled coaching change in the NBA. Because one head coach that has not taken the floor this season due to suspension, maybe, just maybe, given the opportunity to take over a team like this with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and company. And that is one in suspended Celtics head coach, Ime Udoka. And according to Shams Charania of The Athletic a few minutes ago, Udoka has emerged as a strong front runner to be the next Brooklyn Nets head coach, and the sides have begun discussions. The association is one of the most drama layered like corporations in sports, and every part of me is here for it because this would be just the most exciting, fun move to talk about. Having this coach who was suspended for all the stuff that happened during the off season and what happened before that, but came out in the off season, now going over to Brooklyn, who has maybe had in the last 3 seasons or so the most headache inducing, migraine peddling, just brain rattling stretch of any franchise in the NBA. It really is kind of just fascinating to see with all the talent on this team, with all that is kind of gotten done, but not really, how this team is just kind of basically folding in on itself, shooting itself in the foot with so many bullets that the gun is empty. This is actually like really, really funny to watch. And we're saying it because we have an organization right now that somehow, you wouldn't have thought this 3 or 4 years ago, has less drama and more competence than what is going on in the borough right now.
This league. And so to your one point, the one point you said is the Nets are shooting themselves in the foot. That is correct, except for a guy named Ben Simmons, because he doesn't shoot again. But that's either here nor there. 2-5 start through 7 games. We know how much drama there was. KD wanted out. Kyrie wanted out. Well, 2 years ago, KD and Kyrie agreed on Steve Nash as the coach. 7 games, he's gone. They wanted him gone during the offseason when they wanted to trade. They sat down and worked it out. It's like, no, what is going on in Brooklyn? What is it? Kyrie Irving now is caught in the news for all the wrong reasons, which we're not going to get into that.
Nope.
Kevin Durant, actually, Mitch, I can't believe it. I haven't seen any tweets for 2 weeks. I haven't seen him really say anything off the wall yet. So Kevin Durant's at least, staying quiet. I've seen Ben Simmons airballing layups. I've seen Ben Simmons airballing putback shots. I've seen Kyrie Irving yelling at him to shoot the ball when he's wide open in the lane. He won't shoot. And now you fired a coach. And now you're talking about going and getting the coach that led a team to the NBA Finals last year. In his first year as head coach of the Boston Celtics, that's in your own division. And here's the kicker. He is suspended all year. And a lot of people, I think, get this mixed up. Suspended by the Celtics. If the Nets get Ime Udoka, he can coach immediately. The NBA never suspended Udoka.
Nope.
What happened in Boston was a zero tolerance policy by the franchise. That had nothing to do with the NBA. Any team right now could come get Ime Udoka, and he can coach like that. And this is just going to be crazy because not only that, then, Mitch, what happens to everybody else in Boston? Because that's the staff he put together as head coach of the Celtics. So what's going to happen then? Is he going to ask them to come with him? Is there something in the contract saying they have to stay there and he has to go build his own staff? I mean, it has to happen first, right? We have to see it happen first. But it looks like it's serious because when you have Shams and Woj, the 2 biggest news breakers, Woj bombs, as everyone knows, talking about this, and you know how petty the Nets are, and you know that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to pound the drum until they get what they want, I think by the time we record next week, Mitch, I think I think Ime Udoka is going to be coach of the Nets, and I won't be shocked if he's coached a game already.
Oh, I hope so. I really, really do. Now, granted, there are some other names in the potential running, including Quinn Snyder. I saw from one of the tweets. It would just be really, really funny to see this transpire and see what the Nets have done. Now, granted, I keep harping on the Nets, but the Nets are not one of the worst teams in the NBA. They've gotten off to a rough start. It could be a lot worse. It could be in the situation that the Lakers are in right now and a couple of other teams, but it's just amazing to see all the hype around this organization just kind of not really lead to anything beyond a second round appearance in the playoffs. Granted, they were an inch of Kevin Durant's foot away from making it to the Eastern Conference Finals that year that the Nets won, or the Bucks won. I think it was the Bucks, but it really is just kind of unbelievable to see this all go down. And we've seen what's been going on with the players as of late. KD has been doing what he's doing. It's kind of funny, like you said, to see him on Twitter and everything, just kind of harping on stuff. Kyrie, I know there's been a lot of bigger touch points that have been going on with him, and we at this moment right now, we're not equipped to handle that in the most
professional and
yes,
with all the facts straight.
Thank you. Yes,
there's no reason to.
Right. And it's really tough because you brought it up. Nash and the general manager initially were wanted out by Kyrie and KD and all of them, and they get to this truce right before the season, which I guess didn't really lead to much actual trucing. So I don't know. It's just an interesting little tidbit for the NBA. It's such a fascinating time right now. We're still 7 games into the season, and and I mentioned before, we're into a season now where the Cleveland Cavaliers have gotten off to one of the best starts in the NBA, and they just got another win against the New York Knicks this past weekend on Sunday. And I'm telling you, man, I can see this difference. I can't not talk about the continuous differences I see with Donovan Mitchell on this floor. The man is a difference maker compared to some of the games we had last year where the games kind of slipped away. He is making the plays he needs to. I think we have, one of the top big men in Jared Allen in the league, which is unbelievable considering we got him from Brooklyn for cheap in that James Harden deal, which James Harden played all of 17 games for him. You have the deal with many of the guys really stepping up. I mean, even with Darius Garland out, you have guys like Jetty Osman coming off the bench really well. Kevin Love is a very solid veteran, and just all these guys. Karis LeVert having a huge night in Boston the other day, which they're going to play again this weekend.
Dean Wade, you got to give Dean Wade his flowers.
Dean Wade, a lot of credit. Dean Wade has been stepping up in the starting lineup lately offensively and has done really well. It does make me worry about Isaac Okoro, because the offense really needs to step up if he wants to be a member of this team, even with the defense. But if that's your biggest complaint right now, then we're in a good position. 5-1, taking on Boston team this week. I don't know if they're going to win against Boston at home this Wednesday night, because it took them in an extra time to beat them the other night. But I'm really loving what I'm seeing.
What happens if Udoka goes to the Nets? He takes staff with him. Maybe the Celtics become player coach. Who knows? But to your point, the Cavs have been, listen, they were fun last year because we did not know what to expect.
Right.
And they got us, and we ran with them, and then injuries derailed them a little bit, and they showed us what they're capable of being. When we got Donovan Mitchell, I was all for it. I did not know that what I've seen from Donovan Mitchell in 6 games is the player we're going to be getting, though, Mitch. And that's nobody's fault, right? I didn't stay up with NBA League Pass watching Utah Jazz games. Only time I saw him was when they were playing on the East Coast in prime time, or the Cavs were playing them, or in the playoffs. And what he's done so far with only playing 2 whole quarters on the court with Darius Garland just makes you wonder what this team is going to just, I don't want to say unstoppable, but this team is only going to get better once Garland gets back. And then once Ricky Rubio gets back, and you have to look at it because the NBA is so crazy through the first week and a half, 2 weeks of the season. You expected the Bucks to be atop the East. They're the only undefeated team left. You expected the Celtics to be there. Did anybody expect the Raptors to be the 4 seed? Did anybody expect that if the playoffs, the play-in started right now, the Nets wouldn't be in? The Heat wouldn't be in the Western Conference. The Warriors, the Clippers, and the Lakers wouldn't be in. the Nuggets are the 7th seed in the West right now. Who on earth had Portland as the 1 seed through 2 weeks of the season? Because nobody did.
Yeah.
And now they'll come down because Damian Lillard's out 1 to 2 weeks. But what we've seen already through 2 weeks, Mitch, is kind of what we've seen in the NFL season, right? We go in and we talk, heading up to the weekend matchups when we're making our picks. Oh, well, this team's going to get it right now. This team's going to get it right. And some NFL teams haven't got it right. These NBA teams, all of a sudden, you're like, well, I didn't think they could be that good. I didn't think, and granted, it's 2 weeks in, but at the same time, we've played 6 games. Some teams have played 7. Some teams have played 5. It is what it is. But I think the thing for me that always hits me the hardest in the NBA is once you get to that 20 games in, you're a quarter of the way through the season, which is just mind-boggling to me when you just think of it that way. Every 20 games is a quarter of the way through the season. And it's crazy to think, and this Cavs team is so much fun. They really are. And the one thing I will say, when we acquired Donovan Mitchell and you listen to any of the big name insiders like Brian Windhorst or Bill Simmons, the knock on him and with this Cavs team is the Cavs buy in for JB and play defense. The knock was Donovan Mitchell does not play defense. They said, you are not going to like his defense. He is very below average defender. Mitch, he's looked phenomenal. He's bought in through the first 6 games. He really has. And with the size and athleticism he has, people don't know this unless they look it up. Like I look things up like this all the time. His wingspan is much longer than what his actual height is. Typically your wingspan is what your height is, give her an inch or two. I believe Donovan's is about 4 inches, 2 inches each way longer than what his actual height is. And he has the capability to play defense, and he's bought in so far through 6 games. And that has been a joy to watch.
It really has. And this is a team that's, going to go on a road trip after this game against Boston this coming week. I believe 4 out of their next 5 road games will be on the West Coast, including games against the Clippers and the Lakers. That'll be a good test to see where they could stack up against the Western Conference and not just some of their foes out in the East. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get more into the high school side because we had our opening week of the playoffs. A lot of teams making it through, a lot of teams not. We'll get right to all of them right after this.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Hard work is something you're accustomed to. Van Nostrand Young understands that principle. Our access is achieved with organizations like Grange Insurance. Safety and prevention specialists utilize our VanCan assessments process to ensure that you and your colleagues are in the best hands. You want the safest environment for your business, and we can guide you there.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-496.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
If you're purchasing a new home, the team at Hartzler's Quality Housing is here to help. Take advantage of record low interest rates to make your new home a reality. Locally owned and operated since 1978, Hartzler's Quality Housing has the experience to guide you through the process. You'll find a wide selection of model homes on site to fit any budget. Open 6 days a week just off I-77. You can also visit them online at hartzlers.com. Hartzler's Quality Housing. Quality from start to finish.
When others treat your fries as an afterthought, all you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget, guaranteed to be hot and crispy, or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, taste preference based on a national taste test by an independent research company.
We welcome you back to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. I gotta send this message to my group chat. That's not ours, but Mitch, going back to our previous segment, man. Before we get into this high school stuff, man. As of what 4 minutes ago, Shams Charania, the Nets plan to hire Ime Udoka as their next head coach. Boston granted the Nets permission to speak to Udoka and will allow him to leave freely. Oh, it doesn't say yet if the Nets are going to honor the suspension that the Celtics gave to him. Because again, what you said, it wasn't the Celtics, it was the Celtics, not the NBA. If they don't do this league, man, this is a special time to be a basketball fan, unless you're a fan of the Lakers. So, as far as the rest of our show goes, we're going to stick on high school football. Because the opening round of the playoffs were this week. Actually, first of all, before I get to that, I want to give a shout out to some of the other teams in the fall sports this year. Dover, New Philadelphia, and Tuscarawas Central Catholic winning district titles in volleyball. Shout out to the Saints who beat Highland for the second time in 2 weeks to win the districts this past Saturday. And I believe it'll be New Philadelphia and Dover. It'll be them moving on as well. In girls soccer, not volleyball, girls soccer, Dover and New Philly will play for the third time this season in the regional semifinals in Division II after both won the districts on Saturday. Highland also winning in girls soccer as well. They'll go to the regional semis this coming Tuesday, actually. And then New Philadelphia's boys season unfortunately came to an end. So that's volleyball and soccer. We want to do highlight on here. We also want to get to the football games because we had a huge slate of week 11-ish, I guess we could say, games. Your team, your schools up there had a lot of advancers this past week. You had McKinley winning, Jackson moving on, Massillon moving on, Hoover moving on. And then of course Lake. So kind of take me through a couple of those contests. I mean, what were some of the ones that you especially saw as standout performances, even in this week 11, where it kind of is like the big seeds beating up on the smaller seeds?
Well, really, Mitch, the two biggest performances would have been by Jackson and Lake. Both teams trailed late in the game. Jackson hosting Berea Mid-Park. They had jumped out to a 21-7 lead before Berea Mid-Park came back and then scored to make it 24-21. Jackson then with a late touchdown in the third made it 28-24. That's all the scoring that was done there. Jackson hung on. Berea Mid-Park drove all the way down, I believe, to the 16-yard line in the fourth. Jackson made a huge stop, able to run at the clock. Jason Davide, I believe, had 3 touchdowns. Kyle Benson added another one from freshman quarterback Lucas Eckerman. The Polar Bears advance. They'll take on St. Ed's, which is a very tall task, and we'll get into that later in the week. Lake, though, Mitch. Lake overcoming a deficit at home to number 15 seed Dublin Scioto. Now, there was already 115 over a 2 seed this week in Ohio. It was Little Miami knocking off Xenia in double overtime, so Lake was able to avoid being the second number 2 seed to go down. They come back. They end up winning 33-17 in a very good game that I believe saw them score at least 3 second-half touchdowns, led by Matthew Sahlberger. He was phenomenal. He paced the Blue Streaks there. Hoover, Mitch, I'll be honest. We had Coach Brian Baum on last week, and I would love to have the opportunity to talk to him again. Hopefully Hoover advances again. Hoover in the first half, Mitch, was not impressive. They had 3 costly turnovers. That game very well should have at least been 35-0 at half, if not 42-0. It should have been a running clock. It ended up being a running clock in the second half. They knocked off Licking Heights 38-7. McKinley did what we expected them to do over Glen Oak, 40-22. Massillon handled Perry easily. And then some other teams up here, Mitch, that saw their season end. Green actually had a lead on Big Walnut. Their season comes to an end. Big Walnut 35, Green 22. Alliance was up 21, I believe, to 3 or 21-7 in the first half. Cheney then rattled off whatever the rest of that point differential would be in the second half, because I'm not good at math. I can't do it on the spot. Cheney defeated Alliance 35-21. So an amazing season for Alliance comes to an end. And there was a lot of chatter, Mitch. Why was Alliance a 12 seed? And, there's all this, that, whatever you want to talk about. West Branch won 52-20, but it was costly because there was an injury to their starting quarterback. We don't know if he's going to play yet this week. I'm not going to assume or confirm that he's in or out. That's not me. I'm not a doctor. I'm just hosting a podcast with you. Northwest advances. They'll have a tough one. Fairless. They were down at halftime to Orville. They come roaring back and get a playoff win, which now, Mitch, if you go all the way back to week 1 of the high school football season, Coach Starbaugh's team has now accomplished all 3 of their goals. It was to win the league for the 2nd year in a row, host a home playoff game, and win a home playoff game. And they did just that. They will advance to play Perrysburg. That's Perry up in Northeast Ohio. That team was up 60-0 with 1:35 to play in the first half over Triway. So Fairless is going to have a tough task, but other teams advancing, let's see, Central 35 over Mineral Ridge, who had 7, and Carrollton. Season comes to an end, and Poochie Snyder and Canton South advanced 28-21 over Salem, and that is all the Stark County teams up here score-wise. I know we'll break it down a little bit more after we hear about your county.
Right before we get to that, I want to shout out Coach Sarbaugh, who has been a guest on the show before. Go check out our episode with him. Yep. He earned his 31st career victory with Fairless last Saturday night, which actually tied him for the school's all-time record with the former head coaches Ron Rankin and Don Wilson. So, that's congratulations to him, and maybe he could get the record here if they were to win this coming week. As far as my area goes, the big ones, Dover and New Philadelphia, unfortunately, seeing their seasons come to an end. Now, Dover, for the 4th time this season, Mitch, losing in overtime. This one to DeSales, who beat the Tornadoes in overtime a few weeks ago. This one 21-20. Dover tried to go for 2, and they didn't get it, and then just that the season came to an end. I was at their game last year when I believe it was Joey Farthing who came up with a 2-point conversion to win, like in a sudden death form for Dover in the playoff game. Can't remember exactly who that was. It might have been St. Vincent St. Mary's. I'm not sure, but that's a tough one for them to swallow. And then New Philadelphia, Canfield beating them 27-10. That offense just couldn't quite get it going against Canfield's squad, so their season comes to an end. Also seeing their season come to an end, Malvern 67-45 against Dawson Bryan. I know Malvern was the lower seed coming in. That's a good number to put up offensively. That is not a good number to put up defensively. We also had the game that I was at, Garaway. I will say this, Mitch. Garaway's game against Smithville. The Smithies started off on defense, and they stopped Garaway on downs. And he thought, okay, this could have. And there was a previous play where it should have been an interception. It was right in the kid's hands, and it just didn't happen. But you think, okay, they stopped them in the red zone. Maybe they can do something here. Right away, they gave up a pick 6 to Garaway, and the Pirates just never looked back. Smithville's offense, with all due respect, was not good that night. 6 turnovers Garaway forced on Smithville, and the Pirates just racked up the points to get that necessary victory. So they will move on. The 48-7 was the final, by the way, and they will take on a team that they just played a little over a week ago, the Ridgewood Generals, after Ridgewood beat Berkshire 21-0. Now, Garaway shut out Ridgewood 29-0 in the final week of the season to clinch the IVC South. Will we see a similar result? I don't know. We shall see. I believe Big Time Sports will be there for that, so check us out there. As far as the other scores go, Indian Valley shutting out Philo 34-0, so the Braves will move on. Carrollton's season comes to an end 33-13 over Steubenville. West Holmes dominating over Shelby 49-7, still undefeated. Harrison Central lost to Norwayne 71-7. New Cumberstown, unfortunately, the IVC North champs, losing to West Jefferson 49-14, and Conotton Valley losing to Hillsdale 62-24. So you still have Garaway, you have Ridgewood, you have West Holmes, you have Indian Valley, and I would even throw Fairless in there, even though Fairless is also considered like a Stark team by proxy. But I would say 5 teams still in the mix for contention in the OHSAA state playoffs. And it should be a very interesting week, and it'll be a very interesting week for our next episode where we might have some special guests here. I don't want to tease exactly who will be on the show, but when you see who it is, I'm sure those of you who have an interest in our special guests will be very excited to see them on here. And you can find us here on YouTube, obviously, Big Time Sports Ohio, or the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. And you can find us on our website, bigtimesportsohio.com, on Twitter at BTS Ohio, Facebook and Instagram at Mitch Spinell, at Mitchell Balla. Mitch, what's the fact of the day?
Well, Mitch, before I get to the fact of the day, I want to do exactly what you did, and I want to shout out a couple other schools up here. Hoover Boys Soccer defeating Jackson in the district championship. Hoover advances to the regional semifinals. Jackson Girls Volleyball won the Hudson District Championship last week. They now advance to the Region 1 regional semifinals, where they will take on Chardon Thursday night at 7:30. If they win and Rocky River Magnificat wins on the other side of that bracket, it would make the third time these schools have met in the past 4 years. Magnificat ending the Polar Bear seasons twice. And then Jackson Boys Cross Country for the first time. Now they've made it to states in years past, but for the first time in a long time, they placed first at regionals and walked away with a regional title. So congrats to all three of those teams and anybody else out there that we missed. And I'm excited for our next episode. Mitch, like you said, a couple of guests we won't tease. We'll find out where I'm at on Friday covering high school football. And your fact of the day is the Cleveland Browns own the Cincinnati Bengals.
They're fair enough. And before I do my final shot, also shout out to a couple of schools that were qualified for the state cross country meets this past Saturday. You had schools like Tusky Valley, their boys squad ended up making it, the girls squad as well in Division III at Pickerington North. Sandy Valley, Tusky Valley, and Garaway also in the mix as well. And also we have a couple of ones for those respective schools as well. Kylie McKenzie of Strasburg qualified, a couple of other ones as well. Minerva, both of their teams qualified in Division II. They'll be joined by Carrollton and West Holmes on the girls' side. So yeah, a lot of those schools doing a lot of great stuff. Xander Heel for Indian Valley, Zeke Galbraith from West Holmes. A lot of great stuff. Carrollton having a couple as well. Riley Raymond of Indian Valley as well. So let me just see if I can get final shots in frame. Let's see if we can get a out of focus shot off the backboard. We can't, right off the rim. So thank you so much for listening or watching to the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.